Hey there, I'm Chief Meteorologist Rachel Garceau, and welcome to your KTVB Plus First Alert Weather Plus forecast. Let's talk about what's on the way for the last day of July and the kickoff to the month of August. So those pesky thunderstorms we've been seeing each and every afternoon for the last several days, those will carry on into the weekend. Not widespread as far as coverage goes, except on Thursday, but still, especially in the mountains, campers will want to be ready for that active weather bubbling up in the afternoons and evenings. Temperatures, though, start a slow slide into more comfortable territory. In fact, we're looking at a relatively cool kickoff to the month of August, and then finally early next week, quieter conditions arrive as we start to see those thunderstorms die down and just more settled conditions will start to ramp up. All right, speaking of August, this is the first time in several months that we will see temperatures trend downward as the month progresses. We've reached the peak of our heat, and now from here we start that slow slide towards the end of summer. So we start off August in the mid-90s. By the end of the month, normally we are in the mid-80s. Those morning lows start off in the mid-60s, and typically as we head towards the end of August, we are in the upper 50s in the Boise area. August is typically our driest month of the year. On average, we see about 0.17 of an inch of total precipitation in Boise. For some perspective, last year in August, we saw 0.02 of an inch. That was it. We had a bone dry August. So we will see what shakes out over the next several weeks. The hottest temperature ever recorded in the month of August, 110 degrees. That's happened a couple of times, most recently just back in 2018. All right, speaking of temperatures, nothing near 110. So we'll be in those mid-90s on Thursday. We kick off August with a little dip in temperatures into the upper 80s. We rebound a tiny bit over the weekend to those low 90s. And then by Monday, very comfortable as we kick off that new work week down to 84 degrees. So below normal every afternoon from Friday and beyond. I'm not seeing any triple-digit temperatures in our future, at least in the short term. But as we talk about long term, we're taking a look now at the temperature outlook for the entire month of August from the Climate Prediction Center. This is the national CPC, as we call it. They look at all of our long-range forecasts, all the big synoptic scale events going on in the atmosphere. And from that, they kind of draw a conclusion about what the next 4 weeks might look like. So their outlook for the month of August is that the entire Northwest will likely trend hotter than normal. How much hotter? Hard to say, but they are leaning towards the fact that looks like we will see warmer than normal temperatures over the entire month. Nationwide, you can see a good section of the country where you see that white. That indicates that the CPC thinks that temperatures there will be about on par with the average, but you can see across much of the country, looks like it's going to be a little bit warmer than normal August. As far as precipitation goes, remember I said August is our driest month of the year typically, and this one, according to the CPC, may trend even drier than normal. That's what these kind of tan and brown shading indicates. Across the country, we see a good swath of the country looking at normal precipitation. For the eastern seaboard, things might be a little wetter than normal for the month of August. You can see across the upper west, the Pacific Northwest, and the Intermountain West, things are going to be a little bit drier than typical. Now, as we look at our precipitation chances, our storm chances for the next several days, for the Treasure Valley, the greatest likelihood we'll see storms is on Thursday. We have dubbed that a First Alert Weather Day in the afternoon and evening because of the impacts there. And then we go back to those 20% chances, which is right about where we settled for the last several days. Again, most of the activity will favor the higher elevations, but especially on Thursday, we will likely see that activity rolling into the Treasure Valley. And here's why. An area of low pressure over central California will lift to the north from Wednesday into Thursday. Another wave comes in behind it on Friday, and that will keep things generally unsettled and active for the end of the work week. Over the weekend, this system that's been spinning its wheels in the Gulf of Alaska for several days will finally be on the move. That will send that shot of cooler air our way by Sunday into Monday, and will shut off this tap of Pacific moisture. So that will finally allow things to settle down a little bit. You can see that here in our upper level pattern futurecast. Here comes this system on Sunday. You can see that dip in the jet stream. That's our trough. That will start bringing in that cooler air. We'll still have a chance of some storms as this system rolls in. So it's really not until Monday that we see things quiet down fully. After that, high pressure does look likely to rebuild. So I think we're back to those 90s by the middle to end of next week, but still pretty comfortable from Sunday for the first few days of the work week next week. As far as precipitation goes, we are talking about a decent chance of storms, especially on Thursday. Here's that Thursday outlook on our high-res futurecast model. Magic Valley may get in on the action this time. Twin Falls hasn't seen much activity, if any, from these storms. As that disturbance swirls off to the north late Thursday, we'll continue some mountain storm chances. You can see the northern panhandle of Idaho and northeast Oregon. Things are going to get really stormy there and active on Friday. Friday or Thursday night into Friday morning. And then Friday, as that system exits, another weaker wave is coming in behind it. That will also support some late day storm activity in the mountains, right on par with what we've been seeing pretty much this entire week. So you've been warned, but we also know the drill. We're kind of used to that activity now. I did want to talk about temperatures across the country real quick as we kick off the month of August. You can see temps in the 80s and 90s for the southern tier of the country. This is actually much more bearable than what we've been seeing in days past. 80 in St. Louis, 76 in Chicago. That's comfy compared to where temperatures have been. San Francisco on Friday is 68 degrees. Here's a fun fact. San Francisco is right in the middle of its coldest summer it has seen since 1982. There's only been 2 days this summer. The temperatures have climbed above 70 degrees in San Francisco. That won't happen on the 1st of August. Doesn't look like it'll happen for several days more there. Now, as far as activity across the United States in the next several days, by Friday, we see some storms developing through the Midwest into northern Texas. As we move this forward into Saturday, stormy for the southeast. We're seeing some strong storms potentially over South Georgia and northern Florida. A little bit of rain activity across Montana. Pretty quiet here across the west. Really quiet on Sunday. Some storms moving again through the upper Midwest into the Great Plains area. But for us, Sunday doesn't look all that interesting, though. Again, chance of some storms still potentially in the mountains as we look ahead to the next several days. Temperatures in the mountains, low 80s on Thursday, sliding into the upper 70s from Friday through Sunday. And then we see sunshine and quieter conditions next week with temps back into the mid 70s by next Tuesday. All right, let's talk about the Magic Valley. Again, some storms possible on Thursday, potentially again on Friday as those two disturbances come in. Temperatures will hover in the 80s, below normal for Twin Falls for the kickoff to August. Morning lows in the low 60s on Saturday. Beautiful on Sunday. I don't know that system coming in will trigger any active weather for the Magic Valley. Maybe some breezy winds, but really comfy conditions with low 80s and sunshine Monday and Tuesday. We're back up near 90, though, by the middle of next week. All right, 7-day outlook for the Boise area. We are giving it first alert weather conditions for late Thursday simply because of that widespread storm activity, and still with a chance of a shower or a storm Friday through Sunday, but those chances are much slimmer. I don't think we will see nearly the impacts that we will from Thursday. Temperatures do cap in the low 90s over our first weekend of August, and then we see that cool down next week into the mid 80s on Monday. That heat starts rebounding, though. Plenty of sunshine next Tuesday and Wednesday, but back to the heat with a high of 90 by the middle of the week. That'll do it for your First Alert Weather Plus forecast. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.